People online had gossiped before, saying that those who could afford to live in brownstone buildings in Brooklyn and New York were no ordinary people. Chloe thought to herself, people lived in brownstones, her family's was just a brownstone buildings in Brooklyn that hadn't been caught up in the development boom yet. 2 or 3 years ago, during the development boom, the neighbors in their area were still holding their heads high. They heard a lot of inside information from relatives and friends, like how much money per square meter they would get for a brownstone buildings in Brooklyn. So, when the money offered by the developers didn't meet their expectations, some people refused to move. Chloe remembered Grandma Green, her neighbor, who usually spoke softly and liked Chloe a lot. Chloe had even eaten pasta with lentils made by Grandma Green, which was quite delicious. Later, during several negotiations with the developers, Grandma Green sat in front of the town hall with a kitchen knife, wailing, "I was born here, and I'll die here. I won't move unless you give me tens of millions." Chloe really didn't expect Grandma Green to be so bold. Some people didn't want to move not for the money. How much money would it take for me to find such a good location again? Those who move because of the development boom all moved to the outskirts. In the past, that was the countryside. Anything beyond downtown isn't New York. My parrot doesn't even talk once we leave downtown. Mr. Alex's parrot was indeed quite talkative. Saying happy holidays was just child's play. Mr. Alex treasured his bird. Once, a kid taught his mynah bird to say motherfucker, and Mr. Alex chased after him to beat him because the mynah bird would be worthless if it dirted its beak. Some people wanted to move, mostly the young ones. It wasn't convenient to use the toilet or take a shower in the brownstone buildings in Brooklyn, especially in the winter. It was too torturous. When you squatted to sure tea in the public bathhouse, your ass would freeze. Back when Faye Wong was still with Do Wei, they also lived in a brownstone buildings in Brooklyn. A newspaper once wrote that Faye Wong got up in the morning and carried a basin to pour water, praising her for being down to earth. Indeed, it was hard not to be down to earth living in a brownstone buildings in Brooklyn. Chloe had also wanted to move. For a long time, she dreamed of the development boom, dreaming of moving into an apartment with Grandma, a 2-bedroom apartment. The location didn't matter, as long as it was warm in the winter without needing a heater, and she could take a shower in her own bathroom without worrying about running out of hot water. Being able to shower at home seemed to be Chloe's only hope in life. It would be best if she could buy an apartment in the same complex as Ryan's family. Ryan was Chloe's childhood friend. His family originally lived near the entrance of the brownstone buildings in Brooklyn, a large family. They moved a few years ago before the development boom came. Among that group of kids, Chloe was the only girl, and she was also quite cute. She was an important strategic resource for the boys in the entire brownstone buildings in Brooklyn. But Chloe played best with Ryan. Children's thoughts were simple. Because Ryan had delicate skin and tender flesh, even though he was a little chubby, he was the best looking among the boys, with a pair of charming phoenix eyes. Moreover, Ryan was very obedient, following behind Chloe, climbing trees, touching bird nests, picking dates, and playing jump rope without complaint. Later, Chloe stopped thinking about the development boom. One reason was that the developers were exhausted by the residents of this area. There were several incidents of people causing trouble, so they demolished the areas surrounding this area in a fit of anger, leaving only their area untouched. If you're willing to stay here, then be imprisoned here. I am not moving. This area became like a slum. Bars and restaurants sprang up around it, creating brownstone buildings in Brooklyn commercial area, leaving only a small brownstone buildings in Brooklyn amidst the prosperity. The second reason was that Chloe's grandma spent tens of thousands of dollars renovating their bathroom. Although it was still a small bathroom of less than 3 square meters, it had new waterproofing, a water heater, and a shower head. She could put a cover on the toilet and take a shower at home without going to the public bathhouse. Chloe expressed great satisfaction. The third reason was that Chloe hadn't contacted Ryan for more than 2 years. She was almost forgetting about him. February 4th, 2019, Christmas Eve. Chloe was awakened on time by the morning news played by Uncle Ron, who lived across the courtyard. Chloe and Grandma lived in a courtyard with two other households. One was Uncle Ron, whose children were not by his side, but they would pick him up for Christmas and other holidays. This year, it was estimated that they would drive over in the afternoon to pick up Uncle Ron. Every time, Uncle Ron would say, "My second daughter's Mercedes can't get in here, I have to go to the intersection to get in the car." Today, hearing Uncle Ron humming a tune in the courtyard through the door, it was estimated that he was in a good mood. The other household was newly moved in, renting a place in the school district for their child to attend elementary school. A couple with a little girl were crammed into one room. Uncle Ron's morning news wasn't actually noisy, but the morning news theme song was quite shocking. A few years ago, it was soft music, but in recent years it had been changed to light music. Chloe didn't need to look at the clock to know it was 7 o'clock. Just waking up, she lay in bed in a daze. There was a crack in the plaster on the ceiling. Chloe had been waiting for it to fall down for 2 years. Then she listened to THE news coming intermittently through the door. The news said that a once-in-20-year cold wave was coming, and a strong cold air mass from Siberia had arrived in New York. The last time New York was so cold was in the winter of 1999. It was predicted that this would be a freezing Christmas. Hoping everyone stays warm this winter season. No wonder her feet were cold when she woke up. Chloe turned over, took out the phone under the pillow. Chloe didn't have many friends in her messaging app, and she basically didn't look at her moments, so she opened her social media app and browsed a few family drama posts, which were also quite boring. The phone was boring, and life was boring. Chloe was a freshman this year, attending university in New York. Others said that people from New York and Shanghai were unwilling to leave their hometowns and rarely went to other places to attend university. Chloe wasn't like that. At first, she wanted to go to Seattle, to Portland. She felt that she was a spiritual person from those cities because the people there gave her a very relaxed feeling. People from New York, how should she put it, were quite competitive. This competitiveness was imperceptible, always holding on to something. But she didn't go in the end because of Grandma. She attended a pretty good university in New York, not the best too, but it was still something to be proud of when she said it, and the major was also good. Others said it would be easy to find a job after graduation, but Chloe didn't really care. Chloe's dad died when Chloe's mom was pregnant. He died in midwinter, which was quite a sensation at the time. He was killed by a brick, and the woman was still pregnant. According to Chloe's mom, Chloe's dad had all the shortcomings of New Yorkers. His words were unreliable, and he felt like a boss wherever he went, taking himself too seriously. He wasn't a bad person, just too unreliable. If he were reliable, he wouldn't have been killed by a brick. Chloe's mom later found a reliable uncle who immigrated 2 years ago. Nowadays, communication is developed, and going abroad is nothing special. There's no such thing as expensive overseas calls anymore. You can video chat and send messages with the messaging app as long as you have internet. But Chloe's mom couldn't even send one message a month, and when she did, it was to ask Chloe to buy things on Amazon and find a way to send them over. Chloe still remembered the winter 2 years ago. She was in her senior year of high school at the time, and she unexpectedly saw her mother at the entrance of the courtyard after returning home from school. Chloe's mom didn't even enter the door, and she seemed relieved to see Chloe. "Chower, you're back. Your grandma went out for a walk and will be back soon. Mom has something to tell you, and then I'll leave," she said, pulling up her scarf, feeling like she had been waiting here for a long time. Chloe took off her backpack from her shoulder, twisted her shoulders. The books were heavy and hurt her shoulders. She didn't say anything and dragged her backpack into the courtyard. Seeing that Chloe was ignoring her, her mother quickly said everything in one breath. Mom has a plane ticket for the day after tomorrow to fly to Los Angeles with your uncle. Take care of yourself and Grandma. Chloe stood in the courtyard without turning her head. When she turned back, Chloe's mom had already left, probably afraid of running into Chloe's grandma. It wasn't that Chloe hadn't felt motherly love. When she was little, she remembered her mother saying the most, "Don't go ice skating at lakes in Central Park in the winter. A bunch of wild kids just know how to play. Many of them fall in and freeze to death." It seemed that this was the only thing worth reminding her of, repeating it over and over again. Chloe was quite puzzled. She hadn't said she was going ice skating. But this motherly love was too thin, so Chloe only remembered T. His one thing. Since Chloe could remember, she had lived in this courtyard with 2 rooms with her grandma and grandpa. Later, Grandpa also passed away in a winter, and she and Grandma were left to depend on each other. Saying the words "depend on each other" gave people a very tragic feeling, but it wasn't actually like that. Chloe's grandma was more open-minded than Chloe thought. She often watched the Home Shopping Network, smoked half a pack of cigarettes a day, stewed roast every week, and had a loud voice. She was a remarkable woman in the past. Grandma didn't have much pension, but it was enough for the 2 of them. After Chloe went to university, she also worked part-time, and they had more than enough to eat, wear, and use. Old people slept less. Grandma usually got up at 5 o'clock, then went for a walk, and went to the farmer's market to buy groceries. In any case, she would always be home by 7 o'clock. At 7:15, she originally wanted to stay in bed until 8 o'clock, but she really couldn't hold her pee, so she got up and went to the bathroom in her cotton slippers. The bathroom was next to Grandma's room. After Chloe came out of the bathroom, she saw that Grandma's room was still closed, and she hadn't opened the curtains. Since she was already up, Chloe didn't want to go back to bed. Without thinking too much, she pushed open Grandma's door, thinking of talking to Grandma, since it was Christmas. "Grandma!" Seeing the old woman lying on the ground, a very terrible word appeared in Chloe's mind for a moment, but she quickly calmed down, didn't cry or shout, and directly called an ambulance, clearly stating the address, phone number, and situation. While waiting for the ambulance, she grabbed the medical records and insurance card, wallet, keys, charger, and poured herself a cup of hot water to drink. It was a sudden heart attack. When she was sent to the hospital, the doctor said that she would have been gone if she had been a little later. But fortunately, it was a false alarm. After busying herself for most of the day, the hospital was staffed with on-call doctors during Christmas. After seeing that the old woman's condition was stable, they arranged a bed for her and went to other wards. Grandma had already woken up and was reaching into her pocket for a cigarette, but Chloe stopped her, and she became a little petulant. Chloe ignored her and sat by the bed, peeling an apple for her, carefully, as if she were carving a work of art. Grandma was as if nothing had happened, lying in the hospital bed and complaining to Chloe that the stray cats in the yard were becoming increasingly rampant. She saw a stray cat standing on the windowsill early in the morning, staring straight at her, which was scary. It was a white cat, but it might not be a stray cat. It was probably frightened by this cat that caused her heart attack. Grandma said angrily. It wasn't that she was angry with the stray cat. Chloe knew that she just wanted to smoke. After speaking for a long time without seeing Chloe respond, she turned her head to look at Chloe, who was still peeling the apple, and saw that her granddaughter's eyes were red. Grandma turned her head to look out the window and said, "I'm hungry. I don't want to eat the hospital food. It's expensive and tastes bad. Go outside and buy me some eggplant parmesan with rice. That's what I want to eat." Chloe walked around the hospital and finally found a home-style restaurant, repeatedly telling them to put less oil in the eggplant. When Chloe came back with the food, she saw a familiar face in the next ward. Aunt Tina? Chloe saw a back view at first and wasn't too sure. The woman turned her face to the side, and Chloe called out. Oh, isn't this Chloe? Aunt Tina heard her name and turned around. Chloe saw Ryan lying on the bed with his eyes closed. She didn't dare to recognize him at first. She and Ryan hadn't seen each other for 2 years. Ryan had lost a lot of weight in 2 years. Ryan had been a chubby kid since he was little. Chloe's grandma's description was very funny, saying that he was fluffy white bread. In the past, every household couldn't afford to eat refined rice and flour, and the bread was yellow and hard, like cornbread. Only the bread steamed with fluffy white bread was white, fluffy, and sweet. So much so that when Ryan was in his teens, Chloe's note for him was still fluffy white bread. Chloe and Ryan went to the same elementary school and middle school, but they weren't together in high school, but they were next to each other, 2 key high schools in the district, just 2 blocks apart. So, after Ryan's family moved, the two still played together, going to the library to study on weekends, or going to Barnes Noble to read a novel. Aside from being fat, Ryan was quite good-looking, and he was also tall. The little chubby kid who used to follow behind Chloe was already 6 feet tall by his senior year of high school, a head and a half taller than Chloe. Ryan had a gentle and mischievous temperament. When he was rebellious, he could make the teacher half dead by interjecting in class. He spoke slowly, irritating people in a roundabout way. Chloe remembered when the teacher asked in middle school why Ren 2, who was wearing a silver neck ring, had a purplish-red face. Why did Mr. Lewson write it this way? Ryan said in a strange voice from below. He was strangled by the silver neck ring on his neck. But he had always been patient with Chloe, and his tone of voice was different. It was a tone that only existed when facing Chloe. When he used to come to the courtyard to find Chloe, he would shout Chloe, as he did when he was a child, as soon as he entered the brownstone buildings in Brooklyn, as if Chloe wouldn't come out if he didn't shout so loudly. The neighbors would joke, "You honor, are you here to find your little girlfriend again?" Actually, they weren't girlfriends yet, there was only a thin layer of window paper between them. Every time at this time, Ryan would say, "You're wrong, she's my wife." Girls are moved by this unique kind of love. Chloe admitted that she was also moved at first, but she didn't know how to cherish it. If it hadn't been for that big fight 2 years ago, Chloe felt that the two would definitely be together. Even now, Chloe felt that she was very muddle-headed at the time. Not very, but too muddle-headed. 2 years ago, Chloe's mom came to Chloe to talk about going abroad. Chloe felt that she didn't care. Anyway, she had never cared about herself since she was little. Living in the vast city of New York, she was as if she didn't have a mother. It was the same whether she went abroad or not. The problem was that Ryan also came to Chloe that night and said that he might apply to universities in the United States. He repeatedly emphasized might, and that he didn't want to go either. His mother insisted on him applying. He was still resisting. If it were normal, Chloe's reaction wouldn't have been so big. Nowadays, there are messaging apps and FaceTime, there are thousands of ways to contact each other, and it's too difficult to lose contact. But Chloe said this at the time. "Go if you want to go. What are you telling me for? Who am I to you? You take yourself too seriously. Who can't live without who?" If this were told to others, they might think it was very childish. Actually, it was just a quarrel between young couples, but for Ryan and Chloe, they hadn't contacted each other for 2 years. After this quarrel, the two were like they were competing with each other, neither of them giving in. Chloe knew that she had really hurt Ryan's heart, because Ryan said one sentence at the end that day. He said it with a smile, but Chloe knew that he was quite angry. "Chloe, you just bully honest people. You're angry with your mom, and I don't mind if you vent it on me here, I'm just being a cheaps." "Kate, I like you bullying me. But what you said today was too hurtful. This time it has to be my turn to coax me before I can get better. Then he said, it's always me rushing to you. Can you rush to me once, okay? Later, Chloe pondered his complaint and tasted the meaning of coquetry. But she was too naive and muddle-headed at the time. A few words could make a 6-foot-tall boy cry on the street. It was obvious that Chloe could have made things better with a few words of coaxing, but the two had been stuck ever since. After the college entrance examination, Chloe learned from a mutual friend that Ryan hadn't gone to the United States either and had been admitted to one of the best 2 schools in New York, which was something to be very proud of. Chloe felt relieved after knowing this, relieved that he hadn't ruined his future because of her. Later, she felt that she was being presumptuous. Why should people ruin their future for you? Who are you? It's just a broken relationship. Is it worth it? Her unspoken apology had been stuck in her heart. As if it wasn't her fault if she didn't apologize. Deceiving herself. After that quarrel, Chloe found countless excuses for her muddle-headedness, such as she had no sense of security, she was afraid of losing him, her childhood was miserable. In the end, Chloe gave up and summed it up in one sentence: she was just scum. So she deserved it. She deserved to see him start a good life, and she deserved to feel uncomfortable until now. But there were also benefits. Chloe felt that she was becoming more and more indifferent, without joy or sorrow, like a nun. When she was with Ryan before, she would still have the throbbing of a girl, but now, she was only in her early 20s, but her heart was as still as water, and she felt that her connection with this world was only Grandma. She even thought that if Grandma was gone one day, she would commit suicide. Anyway, there was nothing to look forward to in life, and living as just enduring the days. What happened to Ryan? Looking at Ryan lying motionless on the hospital bed, Chloe's voice trembled slightly. As long as he didn't speak, he was a picture of tranquility, and with the fact that he had lost so much weight now, he was like the male second lead in a romance drama, gentle and clear. You honor, he. Aunt Tina began to wipe her tears, and Chloe's heart tightened. But then she heard Aunt Tina say, he's such a worrywart, that unlucky child. He insisted on taking the family cat to the hospital on Christmas, saying that it hadn't eaten since last night, and I said that the cat was just old and its time was up. But he wouldn't listen. He got hit by a motorcycle on the way to the vet, then he was sent to the hospital, his leg was put in a cast, and nothing else was wrong after the examination. He was given general anesthesia and hasn't woken up yet. The doctor said that young people recover quickly. It's really upsetting on Christmas. It's good that nothing happened. Chloe didn't know what to say, so she asked, what about the cat? Aunt Tina was stunned. That's right, where was the cat? Ryan's family's cat was a miracle among cats. A white Persian cat, said to have been picked up, had been kept at home. Chloe remembered that the cat had been there since she was a child. Counting it, it must be more than 20 years old this year. This was rare among cats. Stray cats generally lived for 10 years or so, and it was difficult for house cats to live to 17 or 18 even if they were well cared for. Their cat was conservatively estimated to be 21 years old, a year older than Chloe. This cat had a bumpy life. It had been tortured by Chloe and the others a lot when they were young. They even arranged roles for the cat when they played house. At that time, Chloe played the mother, Ryan played the father, and the cat played their disappointing son, dressing up the cat and forcing it to do homework. The cat was called Don't Touch because it always rummaged through the trash can. Every time they yelled at it, it thought its name was this after a long time. When Chloe went home to get something at night, she was still thinking about the cat. Grandma had taken 2 sleeping pills at the hospital and had gone to bed early. Chloe was going to stay overnight, so she planned to go home, take a shower, and change her clothes before going back to the hospital. On the night of Christmas Eve, there were lights in every house, and families were reunited. There were hardly any cars on the street, a rare moment of peace. Everyone had gone home. There used to be a pretentious saying circulating on the internet: every time it snows, New York becomes old Beijing. This sentence gave Chloe goosebumps every time. In her opinion, New York was New York. Good things and bad things happened here every day. People came, people left, some lived here, some died here, and it was no different from any other corner of the world, or even worse. She didn't love it here. She had no sense of belonging here. Bad things always happened in winter. She hated New York winters. Everything was cold, showering was cold, going to the bathroom was cold, the heating was always insufficient, and people always left her in the winter. Some were irresistible, like her dad, like her grandpa, and some left voluntarily, like her mom, and some were angered away by her, like Ryan. After arriving home, Chloe first went to the refrigerator to find something to eat. She remembered that there was a bottle of flavored yogurt in the refrigerator, but she couldn't find it after searching for a long time. As if in a fit of anger, she searched twice more even though it wasn't there. There was a bad egg in the refrigerator, and it smelled bad, so she cleaned the refrigerator from the inside out, but the flavored yogurt was still missing. Then, looking at the refrigerator with everything in it, but missing a bottle of flavored yogurt, Chloe suddenly cried. Chloe leaned against the refrigerator, unable to stop crying. The last time she cried so badly was when old Madam died in Westworld. She felt that Dolores was too pitiful, having lost the grandma who cared about her the most. If others asked, she would say that she especially wanted to drink flavored yogurt at this moment, so she was crying, and she was just being pretentious, so what? Chloe was too scared. She was afraid that Grandma would be gone. Just like that bottle of flavored yogurt that she thought would be in the refrigerator, sometimes a person's disappearance was even more bizarre. They were gone without a word. God didn't care whether it was Christmas or a holiday, whether it was a man or a woman. There were no signs when he wanted to take someone away. Chloe looked at the window. The cat seemed to suddenly appear there. Or maybe it had been watching Chloe cry for a long time. A white Persian cat. But Chloe wasn't sure if it was Don't Touch. Because the cat looked very young. There were no red tear stains around the eyes of an old cat. The white cat saw that Chloe had noticed it, so it jumped down from the window and ran out of the courtyard. As if possessed, Chloe followed the cat out the door. The night at Lakes in Central Park was rarely gentle. It was as if she had returned to her childhood. At that time, the bars and lakes in Central Park hadn't sprung up yet. Everything in this world was distinct. A lake was a lake, brownstone buildings in Brooklyn was brownstone buildings in Brooklyn, a tree was a tree, and even winter was very serious, cold and genuine. Chloe chased the white cat to the lakeside. Just as she saw the cat jump onto the railing, it disappeared as soon as she rushed over, as if it had disappeared into the lake. Chloe's heart was in her throat. She grabbed the white stone railing and kept looking down, but Lakes in Central Park was calm and dark, without a splash or a sound. The cat disappeared just like that. Chloe stared at the lake in a daze, feeling confused, feeling like she was dreaming. At this moment, a gentle and deep male voice sounded in her ear. Chloe thought it was her imagination because the voice was exactly the same as Ryan's. "What are you looking for?" Chloe suddenly turned her head, and was immediately stunned. It was Ryan. It was Ryan without a cast on his leg. But upon closer inspection, it wasn't. They did look alike, and their voices were similar. But a person's habits wouldn't change: the tone of voice, facial expressions, demeanor, and posture. The man next to the railing was only wearing a dark brown wool jacket, which was quite retro, like a style that was popular more than 10 years ago. Underneath the jacket, the collar revealed a white sweater, not a turtleneck, so a small section of his neck was exposed. He looked quite cold. He was standing casually by the railing, but his posture wasn't slouching. His temperament had a bit of casualness that was rarely seen in young people. Young people were always flustered. But this man wasn't. Chloe hadn't heard him come. He was as quiet as if he had been standing here all along. Chloe opened her mouth, but didn't make a sound. This face was too similar. The opening and closing of his mouth was like another Ryan speaking. Like Ryan, who wasn't angry with her speaking. She only heard the man say again, "I just saw a cat running over there. If you're looking for that cat." The man took his hand out of his pocket and pointed to the other side of the lake. Chloe looked at the other side of the lake in the direction of his hand. It was pitch black, and there was nothing there. The lights in the area where there were usually bars were all off. There weren't even any street lights. It was really strange. In such a strange environment, talking to a man who looked exactly like Ryan, but was completely unfamiliar. Chloe wasn't afraid at all. It was as if it should be like this. By the way, my name is Ting Xiu. I'm Ryan's uncle. The man smiled, not asking Chloe's name. You must be Chloe. I know you. Ryan's uncle was so young. He looked about the same age as Ryan. And Chloe had never heard of Ryan having an uncle. Chloe composed herself and said, "Hello, uncle." She was stunned after saying that. How did she follow his lead and call him uncle? She should have called him uncle. He wasn't her uncle. Ting Xiu smiled, still keeping a certain distance from her, probably afraid that Chloe would be scared, so he didn't get close. For some reason, Chloe felt that the man in front of her wasn't real. The whole person was like in the halo of an art film, vaguely, but definitely there. In the cold air of New York in winter, this feeling of softened edges was very strange. Chloe said, "I'm looking for a white cat. But I'm not sure which one I'm looking for. 2 cats are missing, and I don't know if they're the same one." She was rambling. Chloe felt that she sounded stupid, and the more she tried to explain, the more chaotic it became. She felt that Ting Xiu wouldn't have the patience to listen to her nonsense. "It's still early. How about I help you look for it? It's Christmas, and there's no one on the street, so it should be easy to find." Ting Xiu put his hand back in his pocket. "We can walk around the lake, and we'll always find it. I promise, before dawn." Ting Xiu was confident. Chloe didn't know why he was so sure, but for some reason, this person's words were very convincing. Chloe felt that his words were persuasive because she unconsciously followed him. Just like she had chased the cat out of the courtyard just now. Chloe felt that Lakes in Central Park was different from usual at this moment. But she couldn't say exactly what was different. It felt like she was in a dream. You could only see the front and the present clearly. The front was clear, but you couldn't look back. The back was foggy. Everything in this world was revolving around her, and what she didn't pay attention to didn't exist. Ting Xiu walked slowly on the outside of Chloe, with his hands in his pockets, sometimes pausing to wait for Chloe, as if he wasn't in a hurry to find the cat. "How old are you this year?" Ting Xiu had the face of someone in his early 20s, but his tone of voice was like an elder asking. "I'll be 20 after my birthday this year, but my birthday hasn't arrived yet. It's still more than a month away. I'm more than 3 months younger than Ryan." Chloe answered very seriously. Ryan's birthday is easy to remember, January 1st, 1999. Old people always say that January 1st is a big birthday. If a person's fate is bad, they will be crushed by the birthday, but if a person's fate is good, they can suppress the birthday and gain blessings. It's like that with birthdays, names, and tattoos. Some people just don't have good fate and can't suppress it, like Chloe's dad. Grandma said that her son-in-law, who was killed by a brick, used to be an Upper West Side hoodlum, never doing any serious work, always getting into fights. He even got a cowboy image tattooed on his back, and later he couldn't handle it. He got hit on the back of the head, blood flowing all down his back, and the cowboy image was dyed red. Chloe's grandma was very taboo about this afterwards. When Chloe was born and they were choosing a name, a family of birds had just moved into the eaves of the brownstone, flying in and out every day with branches in their beaks. Grandma pointed to the bird's nest with her cigarette-holding hand and said, "Let's call her Chloe. A small name will help the child grow up healthy. Besides, birds nesting is a sign of good luck." Ryan never celebrates his birthday. Chloe doesn't know why. When she asks, he only says it's a family rule that men don't celebrate birthdays. She thinks the boys in Ryan's family are too pitiful. Chloe once said, "Then I won't celebrate either, so you won't be sad." Ryan was a little surprised and said, "I'm not sad." Then he yanked the hood of Chloe's hoodie over her face. Chloe thought this behavior was a bit inexplicable. "Yeah, about to be a freshman," Ting-Shou nodded. Chloe's mom never figured out what grade Chloe was in. From elementary to middle school, from middle to high school, it always took a long time before she cared. Sometimes it felt like she suddenly wanted to exercise her parental authority, asking how the final exams were going, when it was actually 2 months away. Ting-Shou sighed. 20 years old, what a great age. Chloe asked curiously, "Then how old are you, uncle?" "This year, I'm probably in my 40s, Ting-Shou looked into the distance. Chloe caught the word probably in his sentence, and it didn't feel like a definite statement. What shocked Chloe even more was that Ting-Shou was in his 40s. The genes in Ryan's mom's family must be too good. "Then you look really young," Chloe mumbled, because she thought that if Ryan also inherited this heaven-defying gene, wouldn't she look like Ryan's aunt in 20 years? She couldn't even imagine it. Probably sensing Chloe's confusion, Ting-Shou smiled and didn't explain. "There used to be a baked sweet potatoes vendor here." Ting-Shou pointed to a bubble tea shop. "You're too young, you probably haven't seen it. A steel drum, about this big." As he said that, Ting-Shou made a circle with his arms and gestured. Usually it was a discarded gasoline drum. "You could use it after scrubbing it. Poke a hole in the bottom to put firewood. The newspapers said that the sweet potatoes baked in that thing were bad for your health. But ordinary people didn't care about that, as long as it tasted good." Ting-Shou shrugged and said, "But they were really delicious. When I was going to school around here, I could smell the aroma from far away when I was walking home. I secretly bought one to eat, and then I couldn't eat dinner and my mom would beat me, saying I wasn't eating proper food." While Ting-Shou was talking, Chloe secretly looked at the man. The man's face was a little red from the wind, and his eyes smiled when he talked about memories. It was a slightly wistful smile, clearly smiling, but also a little melancholy. And right where Ting-Shou was pointing, there actually appeared a vendor pushing a steel drum selling sweet potatoes. New York had banned these kinds of food stalls long ago. It had been so many years, and this was really the first time Chloe had seen one. Chloe blinked. It really just appeared here in an instant. "Uncle Green, why aren't you home yet?" Ting-Shou greeted, as if they were old acquaintances. Uncle Green grinned when he heard this, his hands tucked into his sleeves in the cold wind, his neck also shrinking. "Yeah, I've got 3 left. I'll go back after I sell them." "Damn, it's really fucking cold today." The weather forecast said a cold front from Siberia is passing through, torturing people during happy holidays. "Yeah, they're saying it's a cold wave that comes once every 20 years. The last time it was this cold was 1999, Chloe added. But Uncle Green didn't pick up the conversation, didn't even look at her, as if she wasn't even there. "I'll take them all, no need to give me change. Go home quickly." Ting-Shou took out an old version of the RMB from his pocket, an old version because Chloe had never seen it before. "This is money given to you by your family. How can I overcharge you?" Uncle Green insisted on putting 2 coins back into Ting Xiu's hand. Then he took out 3 baked sweet potatoes from the steel drum, wrapped them in craft paper, and said as he wrapped them, "Work hard, you're the first college student from our town hall." Ting Xiu didn't insist. "Are they sweet?" "Don't worry, they're all sweet." Ting Xiu took the 3 baked sweet potatoes. The heat of the sweet potatoes spread out in the winter night. It was a warm aroma. It smelled warm. Ting Xiu handed Chloe a bowl. "Ked sweet potatoes, it's okay if the outer skin is burnt. Let me peel it off for you. Blow on it when you eat it, or you'll burn yourself. I'll keep the remaining 2 here for now. I'll bring them home for you later." Chloe took a bite. The sweet potato had been baked for a long time. It was sweet and soft, and it almost melted in her mouth. Ryan didn't like to eat snacks, but he often brought Chloe internet-famous snacks that people checked in on their social media app, never showing up empty-handed. It was either something to eat or something to drink. When Ryan carried big bags and small bags, Chloe would complain, "Are you here to give me happy holidays greetings again?" Chloe rarely made sarcastic remarks, always pretending to be quiet and demure, only letting herself go in front of Ryan. Even watching a dog poop on the street, she had to drag Ryan to observe it from afar. And sometimes she was quite cutting. For example, she secretly described their homeroom teacher as a white jade radish, because their homeroom teacher was fair and chubby but always had a stern face. This description made Ryan laugh. "Chloe, I've realized you've inherited your grandma's true essence, really. What fluffy white bread, white jade radish, so mean. You're subtly wicked." Every time Chloe roasted him, Ryan would look at her with a smile. Sometimes he couldn't help but pinch her cheek. Like a Saint Bernard, even his ill-intentioned cheek pinching was kind of silly. Chloe had read about Saint Bernards in a novel, saying that this kind of dog was large and had thick fur, often with a small barrel tied around its neck, filled with vodka, following people into the snowy mountains to rescue them. When they saw someone frozen unconscious on the mountain, the Saint Bernard would warm them with its body temperature, and when the person woke up, they would drink the alcohol hanging around its neck. Sometimes Chloe ate a lot and couldn't finish it, and Ryan would reluctantly eat hat she had left over. At first, she felt awkward and a little disgusted. Ryan raised his voice, "Hey, I haven't even. Besides, you can't waste food. My mom said that wasting food means you won't be reincarnated as a human in your next life." Junior high and high school boys got together and their mouths weren't clean. It wasn't that they had to swear, but they just felt that it had a rhythm, like filler words. Especially when the teacher took up gym class, they cursed at the teacher with gusto. But Ryan never swore in front of Chloe. Sometimes he was used to it, and it slipped out, but he would always stop halfway and replace it with a civilized word. But what Ryan didn't know was that Chloe wasn't as well behaved as he thought. Chloe would silently swear in her heart, and her thoughts flowed like a spring. She was really subtly wicked. The old men in the brownstone buildings in Brooklyn were all swear word masters, and she'd learned it after listening for more than 10 years. Chloe stopped and looked back at Uncle Green, and found that Uncle Green had already disappeared into the night. The back was a blur. Ting Xiu turned back to look at Chloe. Chloe was holding a half-eaten sweet potato in her hand, staring blankly back. "Are you scared?" Ting Xiu asked. Chloe felt that he meant something else. What was she afraid of? Was she afraid of the dark, or afraid of the fog, or afraid of him? Chloe wasn't sure. "Is this a dream?" Chloe asked uncertainly. She had sensed something was wrong just now, but they all said that dreams were black and white. Right now, the world Chloe was in was colorful. Like Ting Xiu's brown woolen coat, like the baked sweet potatoes, like Ting Xiu's cheeks, which were a little red from the cold. "If it's not a dream, would you be afraid?" Ting Xiu didn't answer her question directly. "A little bit," Chloe said hesitantly. If it was a dream, she could wake up. If it wasn't a dream, she didn't know how to leave. Although she didn't he have any expectations for real life? She still had Grandma, and she owed Ryan an apology. I'll send you back before dawn, Ting Xiu said very gently. Before that, will you talk to me for a while? Chloe nodded, but she really wanted to ask, from where to where? Where was this? She vaguely felt that all of this might be related to that strong cold front. This is winter 20 years ago. Ting Xiu answered the question in her heart, and then pointed to the distance. I wanted to show you what New York looked like in my memory. As soon as he finished speaking, the color of the world changed. Like an old photograph, it was yellow, and the edges of things were soft, with a gentle sense of time. And the night turned into dusk. The sky was a strange pink. It's pretty, isn't it? Ting Xiu asked. A series of pigeon whistles came from above. Chloe looked up, and the sky was filled with crisscrossing wires and circles of flying pigeons. Ting Xiu also looked up at the pigeons, Mr. Alex's pigeons. Chloe knew that Mr. Alex used to raise pigeons. She and Ryan had even helped break corn kernels. But a few years ago, Mr. Alex's last pigeon also died. Later, he switched to raising mynah birds. Mr. Alex also said, raising a group, they die one after another, it's sad several times. It's easier to raise just one. This made Chloe sad for a while. Chloe looked around. 2 old men were sitting on small stools by the lake playing chess, and a group of old people were surrounding them. The chess players hadn't even done anything yet, but the onlookers were about to start arguing. Lakes in Central Park was still a wild lake back then, not very well managed, and full of weeds. Now, in the winter, the weeds were frozen straight in the ice. Ting Xiu didn't say much, and continued to walk along lakes in Central Park. As he walked, he hummed a song, an old song, Love in New York, sung by Taylor Swift and Adele on the Christmas Gala in '98. When she sang this song, Adele W. as already a superstar in the mainland music scene, while Taylor Swift's popularity in the mainland hadn't yet taken off. To thank Taylor Swift for bringing her into the Hong Kong and Taiwan markets, Adele invited Taylor Swift to sing together. The combination of the 2 voices was very textured, and after they sang it, it became a hit all over the country. It was popular for a whole year from '98 to '99. The 2 passed a candy apple stand. Ting Xiu knew him too, he called him Uncle Zhang. He took out all the small bills from his pocket and handed them to Uncle Zhang. The hawthorns with glutinous rice inside are delicious. Give our girl a stick of candied yam too. Ting Xiu pointed to the bamboo sticks filled with candy apples, looked at them and said, the one with more sugar. The candy apple was wrapped in a thin layer of glutinous rice paper. When Chloe was little, she liked to eat that glutinous rice paper. The glutinous rice paper had no taste, and it disappeared in her mouth. She thought it was magical. And every time, Ryan would tear off his glutinous rice paper and give it to her to eat too. Ryan also said that there was glutinous rice paper sold online, and she could buy it to eat. Chloe thought about it and said she'd rather not. Because what she liked to eat was the glutinous rice paper wrapped around the candy apple, not the glutinous rice paper itself. Like the almonds and chocolate, and the shiitake mushrooms in shiitake mushroom chicken soup. Chloe remembered that Ryan listened to her theory with disdain and said, like the you inside of me. Then they both fell silent. Ryan didn't actually mean to make a dirty joke. He just said it without thinking. He didn't think so much. Besides messing around, the 2 of them had never even held hands, let alone philosophical things like you inside of me. Chloe looked up and watched Ryan's ears turn red, then his face, then his neck. Ryan also noticed, and then covered Chloe's eyes with his big hand, not letting her see his bright red face, shouting in his heart, damn it, what the hell did I just say? Chloe wasn't the kind of person who blushed easily. Her heart was also pounding, but her face was calm. She immediately had dirty thoughts. After all, she had read the page about male and female anatomy in her biology book 3 times. But she would pretend to be calm, using a voice that desperately suppressed her laughter. "Take your hand away." The matter passed awkwardly like this, and the two never mentioned it again. What Chloe didn't know was that this matter had a profound impact on Ryan. That week, he got up early and sneaked into the bathroom to wash his underwear for 3 days in a row. For 3 days in a row. Every morning when he woke up, he lifted the covers and the thought flashed in his mind, not again. He thought he was hopeless. It was just a wet dream for 3 days. Chloe crunched and bit off the top of the caramel. Ting Xiu asserted, still a little girl, loves sweets. The two walked to Bow Bridge. It was just a small arched bridge, because it connected lakes in Central Park, like a gourd with a thin waist, so it was considered a scenic spot. There was a willow tree by the bridge, but the branches were bare now. An exercising grandma was hitting the tree hard with her back. An old bike was leaning against the bridge. Old bike. You probably haven't seen it. Ting Xiu pointed to the bicycle and asked. Back then, everyone envied whoever had one of these. Chloe shook her head. I've seen it. My grandma used to have one, and she used to take me to and from school. It was very tall, and when I rode it, my feet couldn't touch the ground. I even fell once. Actually, it wasn't just once. She had even ridden that bike with Ryan. The two of them were going to local community center, and Don't Touch was stuffed in the basket. Not long after they left the brownstone buildings in Brooklyn, they both fell into a ditch. Chloe's grandma had to pull them out. Ting Xiu put one hand on the bridge and looked towards lakes in Central Park. They're all artificial lakes, dug out. Central Park Lake, lakes in Central Park. The dirt that was dug out was piled up to form High Park, behind the Metropolitan Museum of Art for the Emperor to see. Actually, the Emperor was pretty easy to fool. He was quite satisfied with an artificial mountain. Before, they said that there was a CI under Central Park Lake, and then people found iron chains in a large well in Main Street. The big iron chains were very long, and you couldn't see the end no matter what. It was said that this was a CI, and a dragon was tied there. The more it was spread, the more evil it became, and people didn't dare to pull it out, so they put the iron chains back as they were and sealed the well. Interesting, isn't it? They say that in New York, if you like a girl, you take her to visit New York Botanical Garden, go boating in the summer, go ice skating in the winter, and look at the white pagoda on the lake. So why not lakes in Central Park? Because this used to be a wild lake, no one cared about it. There were a lot of accidents when people skated on the wild ice in the winter. The water wasn't deep. New York City doesn't have any deep lakes. The deepest Central Park Lake is only 4 or 5 meters deep. But in the middle of winter, falling into a lake a few meters deep is unbearable, especially if you fall into an ice hole wearing a down jacket. Once the water is sucked into your clothes, you'll sink. Before, people made their own ice sleds, sharpened steel angle iron into ice blades, and used coal rods from home as poles. You had to wear gloves when you were skating, otherwise the iron rods would freeze your hands. Later, the hoodlums in East Upper West Side fought over territory, and they agreed to fight on the edge of lakes in Central Park. One of our Upper West Side guys was killed by a brick to the head, and he died on the spot. Chloe turned to look at Ting Xiu. The Upper West Side 1 and lakes in Central Park came under the control of the Upper West Side gang. In the winter, they'd circle it with ropes and surround it with bamboo poles, carving out a piece on the ice. If you wanted to skate, you paid a few dollars to rent ice sleds and ice skates. I have to say, they managed it pretty well, and there were almost no more accidents. But at the beginning of winter, the hoodlums didn't dare to open a place to rent out ice equipment, because the ice wasn't thick enough yet, it was still brittle. You had to wait until January or February, when the ice was solid. There were also some who were bold. I once saved a pregnant woman in this area. She was wearing a lot of clothes in the winter, walking on the ice with a big belly. It was early winter at the time, and the ice hadn't frozen solid yet. I could tell something was wrong from the shore. I watched from the shore, thinking that I'd go home after the pregnant woman safely reached the other side. But the more I watched, the more I felt something was wrong, because the pregnant woman was just walking aimlessly, going in circles on the ice. As a result, the ice was thin in one place, and she stepped on it and fell in. I was so scared that I ran over and jumped into the hole and dragged her to the shore. At the time, I relied on being young and healthy, and I forgot about the cold. I was just thinking that nothing could happen, because if something happened, it would be 2 lives lost. I carried the person all the way to New York Presbyterian Hospital. That pregnant woman was pretty tough. After she was sent to the hospital, they checked and there was nothing wrong. She was just a little frozen, and the baby in her belly was also strong. Later, when I went to the hospital again, the doctor there recognized me and secretly told me that the pregnant woman hadn't planned to live because her husband had been hit on the back of the head during a fight and died. Before that, the two had loved each other to death, and after the pregnant woman woke up, she just cried, crying about why she hadn't died. The doctor also advised her that since she had been given a second life, she should live it well for herself. Don't do anything stupid again. After that pregnant woman was discharged from the hospital, she dragged people around to find out about me, looking for me. Luckily, I had told the doctor, and the doctor kept his mouth shut and didn't tell her. I didn't think about whether she wanted to thank me. Maybe she was looking for someone to beat me up. In the twilight, the man gave a self-deprecating smile. After all, she had the determination to die, but I pulled her out. Chloe felt herself trembling. She knew what Ting Xiu was talking about. She turned to look at Ting Xiu. At this time, Ting Xiu reached out and brushed a few stray strands of hair from Chloe's mouth behind her ear. The man's fingertips were cool. After brushing them behind her ear, his hand was placed on top of Chloe's head. Ting Xiu leaned down, brought his forehead to Chloe's forehead, and said softly and slowly, "The little girl who fell into the ice with her mother 20 years ago, it seems like she's grown up obediently." Chloe shook her head, and tears flowed involuntarily. She quickly wiped them away and said in a low voice, "No, that's not true. She really wasn't obedient at all. She lived in hatred, and was constantly fantasizing and being awkward, feeling sorry for herself. Everything in her life wasn't something she took the initiative to do. It was all life telling her, this is how you should be, this is your fate. You're just a brownstone buildings in Brooklyn kid whose dad was a hoodlum and whose mom didn't want her. Your fate isn't good, but it's not particularly bad, so you can't complain, because there are a lot of people who are worse off than you. If you complain, you're ungrateful." So she took the initiative to hate New York, to hate winter. She hated this place, and drew a line between herself and everything, so that nothing could hurt her. The tears at this moment weren't just sadness or anything like that, they were very complicated. She was aggrieved. Ting Xiu looked at Chloe for a while, and continued, "Do you want to hear what happened later? After that, still that winter, I went into the water again and saved a young couple who were dating on the ice. The guy struggled too much, and it took some effort to save him. Maybe I stayed in the icy water for too long, and I got myocarditis after I got ashore. It never got better." Chloe vaguely guessed what never got better meant. Ting Xiu's tone was indifferent, and then he casually pointed, "Those are the two people." Chloe looked over. "Really? Fake." "I'm just pointing randomly," Ting Xiu smiled. "I didn't see their faces clearly at the time, and I never saw them again later. So for me, walking down the street, maybe it's these two, maybe it's those two, it doesn't matter who it is." "Then, what matters?" Chloe asked. I've always felt it's pretty boring. It might be a bit preachy to say this, but I think what matters is that you take the initiative to connect with the world. There are people in this world that you love, people that you hate, people that you miss, and people that leave you. But whether it's love or hate, you have a bond with the world. You know that some things in this world have happened because of you. I once pulled a cat out of a chimney, Ting Xiu said. When that cat was rescued, it looked like a lump of coal. When I took it home to take a bath, I found out it was a little white kitten. Later, this cat always pulled at the swallow's nest on the roof. One day, it pulled the swallow's nest to the ground, and the family of swallows flew away. I don't know where they made their home. Later, that family of swallows moved to Chloe's house. When her grandma saw the swallow's nest, she named Chloe. The operation of this world is complex, but it's not disordered. Everything has a memory. You take the initiative to throw a stone into the lake, and then you can see the ripples. It's getting late. Ting Xiu walked down the bridge. Chloe was still looking at the lake. When she came back to her senses, she only saw the white cat, squatting under the bridge, quietly waiting for her. And Ting Xiu had disappeared. Snowflakes began to fall in the sky. When Chloe woke up, she was sitting in front of the refrigerator, her whole body aching, feeling like she had been sitting on the floor all night. It was already dawn outside the window. There were baked sweet potatoes wrapped in craft paper next to her. She looked down, and was holding a white cat in her arms. It was "Don't Touch" from Ryan's house. The old cat was lying peacefully in Chloe's arms, still warm, but no longer breathing. Chloe got up, found a cardboard box in the corner, and carefully put the cat inside. Then she put the cardboard box under the tree in the yard. She thought about it and put up a sign that said, "Wait for me to come back and take care of it. Do not touch." Then she went to brush her teeth and wash her face. She sneezed several times while brushing her teeth, and the toothpaste sprayed on the mirror. She very patiently wiped the mirror clean. When she was changing clothes, she thought about wearing something festive for Christmas, but after thinking about it, she took out a white sweater and put it on. Then she locked the door and went to the hospital. As she was approaching the hospital, she ran into Aunt Tina, who was buying breakfast, downstairs. Aunt Tina was carrying coffee and donuts in her hand. Then she raised the donut and waved to Chloe. "Chloe, have you eaten? Come on, let's go up and eat together. I bought one for your grandma too." Ryan woke up this morning. Yesterday the doctor said that he would wake up at night after the anesthesia wore off, but this kid slept soundly all night and didn't wake up in the middle. I was so scared that I thought his brain had been damaged. Guess what? After he woke up this morning, he kept smiling foolishly, and he insisted on getting up to wash his hair, saying that he dreamed you came, and he was afraid that his hair smelled bad. I told him that Chloe's grandma is here, so of course she's going to come. He has a cast on his leg, and he still has to have someone wash his hair. Isn't that a bad habit? Besides, didn't you two just see each other last week? Why is he acting like you haven't seen each other in 800 lifetimes? Aunt Tina was still rambling on. Chloe stopped, with a strange look on her face. "Last week? Oh, he said you two went to Barnes Noble," Aunt Tina said. Last week, Ryan went out dressed in all black, with a mask on. If he hadn't said he was going to Barnes Noble, she would have thought he was going to rob someone. As a result, he came home with a gloomy face in the evening, and she thought something had happened. We had a fight, didn't you know?" Chloe said tentatively. She was also very confused, because when she saw Aunt Tina yesterday, her attitude was the same as before, and she didn't mention the breakup. Fought? Aunt Tina also stopped. She hadn't seen Chloe come to play at their house for the past 2 years, and she just thought that Chloe was a big girl and was embarrassed. Plus, Ryan told her, her major is busy, she lives at school, so don't worry about it. We're fine. You're always asking, sooner or later she'll be your daughter-in-law. She's not going anywhere. Oh, it's nothing, just a small spat. Chloe immediately changed her words. Oh, Aunt Tina was relieved. The hospital room was on the 3rd floor. Chloe and Aunt Tina didn't want to wait for the elevator, so they took the stairs. When they were almost to the 2nd floor, Chloe stopped, hesitated for a while, and then opened her mouth. Auntie, does Ryan have an uncle named Ting-Shou? Why are you suddenly asking about this? Aunt Tina's expression stiffened. After a long silence, she sighed. He died 20 years ago. Why are you asking about him? Did Ryan tell you? Chloe had actually guessed it, so she wasn't particularly shocked. She organized her words. She didn't want to lie, but she didn't want to tell Aunt Tina about what happened last night. She just said, I was just asking. I heard he was a very good person. He was a very, very good person. 20 years ago, in the middle of winter, he first saved a pregnant woman, came home with a fever, and before the fever was gone, he saved a young couple who had fallen into the water a week later. Because he had been frozen in the water for a little too long, he got myocarditis after he got ashore, was sent to the hospital, and died a few days later. He was healthy, and had hardly ever been sick since he was a child. I didn't expect such a tough person to pass away so suddenly. But the old saying is that people who are never sick are doomed when they get sick. My younger brother, a college student 20 years ago, had a good brain and was honest and kind. Everyone in the neighborhood liked him. In the first few years after Ting-Shou passed away, the elders in the family couldn't accept this fact, and they would cry every time they passed lakes in Central Park. It's so hard for parents to bury their children. Did Ryan tell you that our family never celebrates Ryan's birthday? I was pregnant with Ryan when his uncle was hospitalized. Ryan was born on the day his uncle died. I've seen photos. He looks a lot like Ryan, Chloe said. They're almost identical. Everyone in the family says that Ting-Shou couldn't bear to leave our old Ting family, so he came back to be reincarnated. We all want to believe that. I wanted to send Ryan abroad, but he didn't want to go. It made me so angry. Later, he said that he wanted to go to Harvard University and finish college for his uncle. When he said that, the elders in the family were saddened, and I didn't force him anymore. But Ryan lived up to expectations, and later he really got into Harvard University, the same major as his uncle. Don't Touch was also picked up by his uncle. He said that it was stuck in the chimney and couldn't get out. Ting-Shou pulled it out and it was as black as a lump of coal. When he came back and gave it a bath, he found out it was a little white kitten. When Ting-Shou passed away, I felt so unwilling. They say good people are rewarded, so why did my brother, who was such a good person, leave this world in his prime, in his early 20s? Was it really worth it, for strangers he didn't even know? Before he died, Ting-Shou comforted me, saying he didn't regret or resent anything. He said it was fate, and no one was to blame. His only regret was that he hadn't experienced the taste of love in all his years, hadn't properly loved a girl. Saying this, Aunt Tina was already sobbing uncontrollably. He held my hand at the time and said, Sis, if there's a next life, I'll definitely find the right girl and love her for a lifetime. I won't even be afraid of young love, just go from childhood sweethearts to growing old together. If you have someone you love, you don't have to be a hero, you can just live a good life and not worry your wife. Chloe went to the hospital bathroom and then sat in Grandma's room for a long time before finally summoning the courage to walk to Ryan's room. Aunt Tina stood up when she saw Chloe arrive. Chloe, you're here. There's coffee here. The donuts are a little cold, but you can eat them with the coffee. You two talk. I'll go sit with Chloe's grandma for a while. After Aunt Tina left, only Chloe and Ryan remained in the room. They hadn't seen each other in over 2 years. Ryan's leg was in a cast and suspended in the air. Andy the boy was half lying on the bed in a somewhat comical posture, but his expression was haughty. His face was tense, his jawline like a marble statue, and his mouth was pursed into a line. Although he was angry, Chloe thought he looked excessively handsome even when angry. If you didn't look at the leg in a cast. The boy had lost a lot of weight, and his face was a little pale. A few strands of black hair lay softly on his forehead, the ends still damp from being washed. Although the atmosphere was cold and silent, his eyes betrayed him. They were dark and bright, as if they were embracing Chloe. Chloe was shaking a little, but not from the cold. The heater in the room was quite warm, and dried orange peels were placed on the radiator. Her heart was shaking, and at the same time, it was a complete mess of tenderness. She heard herself say, "Long time no see, Ryan." Ryan didn't answer. With his leg in a cast and his movements restricted, he rummaged around in the bedside table and pulled out a black pen that he had prepared long ago. He leaned over and wrote a sentence on the cast. Chloe came to apologize to me of her own accord after 2 years, 10 days, and 7 hours. February 5th, 2019, written in room 304 of New York Presbyterian Hospital. After writing, Ryan looked up and glanced at Chloe quickly, then looked away into the corner of the room, saying a little awkwardly, "You know you were wrong?" Chloe took a breath, walked to Ryan's bed, and took his hand. Ryan's fingers were icy cold, and he twitched when Chloe took them, then Chloe held on tightly. They held hands for quite a while without speaking, until Ryan finally said, "Chloe, how long are you going to keep molesting me? Can't you just accept that I forgive you?" It was the same familiar tone that made you want to kick him. Chloe, however, looked at him with gentle eyes and sighed, "You're too easy to coax." The boy snorted. "If I'm so easy to coax, why did you wait 2 years to come?" He'd been wandering around every week to places Chloe might appear, just waiting for a chance encounter so they could make up. But after that, Chloe never left her house, and spent her weekends at home being a recluse. He couldn't exactly hang around in her yard, that would be too obvious. He had his pride, after all. Hearing these words, Chloe unexpectedly shed 2 tears. Ryan immediately panicked. He wanted to wipe away her tears, but he was afraid to touch her face. He sat up in bed abruptly and said, "Why are you crying all of a sudden?" Chloe wiped her face and laughed. "I don't know. I didn't mean to cry." The boy frowned as he looked at her, as if judging whether she was telling the truth. Then Chloe said, "I still need to apologize properly. Ryan, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those hurtful things when I knew you cared about me." Ryan's eyes widened. Then Chloe pulled up a chair, leaned closer, and asked mysteriously, "So, am I still part of the Kong family?" Ryan's face flushed. He had said that he considered Chloe part of the Kong family countless times to the neighbors behind her back, but he had never actually said it to Chloe's face. It was embarrassing to have her bring it up like that. He touched his ears, which were hot, and didn't know where to put his hands. "You always have been. A little squabble doesn't change that. Once you step through the Kong family's door, it's not so easy to leave." Then he added in a low voice, "My mom doesn't even know we fought. Don't let it slip." Humph. Putting on a brave face, Chloe thought to herself. Then she closed her eyes, opened them again, grabbed Ryan's bewildered hands, stood up, kissed Ryan on the forehead, and said, "Good boy." Ryan swallowed hard, stunned. After kissing him, Chloe nonchalantly grabbed a bag of oranges from the bedside table, picked one out, and began to peel it without batting an eye. Ryan felt a surge of shame. What was happening? He felt like he'd been pinned to the bed. Like a pure young woman being taken advantage of by the village chief. Ugh, no. He watched Chloe peeling the orange and felt a little wronged, feeling that this woman peeling an orange was particularly irresponsible. "Hey, why did you pick such a pretty orange to peel?" Ryan asked, trying to start a conversation. Chloe looked up at him and said, "Don't go looking for trouble." Then Ryan took the bag of oranges on the table and started rummaging through them. "What are you picking for?" Chloe asked, speechless. I'm going to eat the ugliest one first. Why are you still so? Chloe remembered that Ryan had always been like this, ever since kindergarten. He always saved the best things for last, eating everything else first and saving his favorite food to eat with the last bite of rice. Even though his family was well off, she didn't know what had triggered this habit. Later, when they grew up, Ryan's habit hadn't changed. Chloe would tease him, and every time she would use her chopsticks to snatch away the food he had been saving for so long. She would then educate him triumphantly, if you save the best for last, you'll end up with nothing. That's life teaching you a lesson. So what? Ryan finally picked out the ugliest orange. So fond of saving things. You haven't changed. I used to take away your favorite foods. How come you haven't learned your lesson yet? Chloe peeled an orange and fed Ryan a slice. Everything between them felt so natural, as if the 2-year Cold War had never happened. Ryan peeled the ugly orange by himself and said casually, "Are you stupid? I was actually waiting for you to take it away back then." Chloe's heart fluttered. She glanced at Ryan, whose phoenix eyes were slightly narrowed, his nose was high and straight, and his Adam's apple bobbed slightly. He looked like a huge Saint Bernard, with a keg tied around his neck, staring at her without moving, as if saying, "Come and drink the wine in the keg, it'll warm you up." Later, Chloe told Ryan about Don't Touch's death. They buried Don't Touch properly and even broke off a small piece of baked sweet potato in the soil. She also told him about that night, briefly. Ryan didn't say anything. "What are you thinking about?" Chloe poked his arm. Ryan pondered and said, "Even if there really is such a thing as reincarnation, and my uncle is me, I'm still a little jealous." "Ryan, you're sick," Chloe said deliberately, using a curse word. Because she felt a little guilty too. "Also, that means I was your savior. What's with that attitude?" Ryan said condescendingly, "My life is so hard. In the end, my past life had to step in to give you a way out, so you'd finally come see me. It makes me sad just thinking about it." "Chloe, you have no heart." Then he pretended to be on the verge of tears, before Chloe kicked him. "Teacher, the hygiene monitor kicked someone." Ryan pretended to raise his hand to report to the teacher. "Ryan, you're so childish. The hygiene monitor thing was 800 years ago." Chloe poked his arm again. After February, March arrived. Chloe's grandma and Ryan were discharged from the hospital one after another. New York City was past its coldest point. The air no longer felt harsh and had a human touch. There was also the sour smell of love in the air. It seemed natural for Chloe and Ryan to be together. They were both in college in New York, they were old enough to date, and they knew each other inside and out. Their families were very happy about it too. What's more, Aunt Tina had always treated Chloe like a daughter-in-law. But Ryan's official confession was still unique. "I may not be that successful, but I'll definitely work hard in the future and earn money to buy my wife good food." As he said this, he pinched Chloe's cheek. Chloe thought to herself, "You're a Harvard University student, you're being way too modest." Chloe gently took Ryan's hand away and complained, "Why does everything have to be about food?" The boy thought for a moment, raised an eyebrow, and said seriously, "Well, there are some things I'm too embarrassed to say." "What things?" Then his tone changed. Ryan put his hand on Chloe's shoulder and pulled her closer. "What do you think?" He had been brooding over that kiss on the forehead, so he was planning to get even. He leaned close to Chloe's ear and said, "Are you pretending not to know?" Then he turned the tables on her and said, "I'm warning you, don't mess with me. I'm a young man full of energy." "Chloe? I didn't mess with you." "Hey, where are you putting your hands?" One weekend, Ryan went to find Chloe. They walked hand in hand on the way to the movie theater, swinging their arms back and forth like elementary school students when no one was around. There were breakfast stands on the street selling candy apples. Ryan pointed to the candy apples on the bamboo sticks and asked, "Want a candy apple?" Chloe was stunned. Seeing that Chloe didn't answer, Ryan said to the vendor, "One yam one, and one with sticky rice." Chloe pulled him. "I can't finish that. I'll eat what you don't." Ryan scanned the code to pay. Chloe saw that 2 candy apples cost 30. "How come they're so expensive now? They used to be $1 each." Ryan said in disbelief, $1 each? That was 20 years ago, before we were even born. "Chloe, are you stupid?" Then, as if remembering something, he paused and said, "He bought them for you too?" Then he muttered shit under his breath. He turned to the vendor and held up 2 fingers. "I'll take 2 of each." Chloe was amused and annoyed. Who was he getting angry at? When choosing, Ryan pointed. "I want the one with more sugar." Chloe looked directly at him. "Why are you looking at me?" Ryan held up 4 candy apples, acting like a crazy person. "Here, I'll bite off the hawthorn for you, and leave the sticky rice for you. You better not be disgusted. You just want to eat at the sticky rice in the middle, don't you?" Ryan carefully bit off the hawthorn and handed it to Chloe, who was still looking at him. "Don't look at me like that, I can't take it." "Here, take it." Ryan's face was a little red. "You're so good to me," Chloe said, looking away, and took the candy apple. She said silently in her heart, "I'll be good to you too." Is that all it takes to be good to you? Chloe, you're so easily impressed. You're bought off by a candy apple. As Ryan said this, the corners of his mouth turned up. He savored the sentence over and over again, and then exclaimed, "How can this mouth be so sweet? Have you been doing something you shouldn't? Chloe, I think you've changed." Then he started acting again. "What a tragedy. You've already done me wrong, a pure college student, right after we started dating. Chloe, I didn't know you were such a bad girl. But why do I like you so much?" Halfway through his act, Ryan pointed to a bubble tea shop. "Want some bubble tea? I'll have half sugar. I'm trying to lose weight lately." "Lose weight for what? You're perfect the way you are, with your chest and your butt." Then he leaned in and planted a big kiss on Chloe's cheek. After kissing her, he said, "I never realized I was such a hooligan. TSK, tisk." The April wind was gentle, and girls were already starting to go bare-legged on the streets. The winter in New York was coming to an end. But winter was nice too, Chloe thought.